everyone, my name is Tori, this is Nova Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have another romance recommendations video to share with you. Today I'm going to give you some enemies to lovers romance recommendations. This is one of those things where I don't always look for it, and I think that enemies to lovers has to be done really well, in my opinion, for me to love the book and want to recommend it, because sometimes that switch from enemies to lovers can just not make sense and I end up not liking the book. But I have a list to share with you, and I kind of want to go ahead and just jump right in because I have a decent amount of books to share with you. So let's just go ahead and jump into the first book, and that is Until I Get You by Claire Contreras. This is one of my first Claire Contreras books, and I will say that even though this is labeled as a dark hockey romance, and I mentioned this in my Is It Worth the Hype video, that it's not necessarily dark in the way that some dark romance readers think dark is. It's more romantic suspense. So I'm gonna call it a romantic suspense book. This is friends to enemies to lovers. So I'm throwing this one in there because I actually did like the progression from friends to enemies to lovers. To me, it made sense and I actually enjoyed the book. It is quite long for a contemporary romance, but we see at the beginning of the book our female character and our main male character, they have this 3-month fling in college. They really start to open up to each other. They both have things that they've been hiding, specifically our female character. And, it takes her a little while to open up to him. And once she does, something happens. Some of those secrets start to come out. And she's like, I need to get away. I need to leave him. I can't put him in danger anymore. And so he gets mad because she just up and leaves with just one little letter that doesn't really explain anything. So 3 years go by, he's in the NHL, which that is as much hockey as you kind of get, because he's leaving the NHL to go find her, to figure out where she's been. And when he does find her, he's like, I need to get my revenge out on you. I'm so mad at you. I'm going to make you, marry me for the sake of I hate you type of a thing. You left me, all of those things come up. But the enemies part is not as long. I actually like the way that the author did it. It made sense of that natural progression of all of these things start to come out that she really couldn't tell him before. And that enemies kind of drifts into lovers. And it is this really romantic, suspensey love story, and I personally really enjoyed it. As someone who doesn't like romantic suspense, I actually did enjoy this because it's start to finish. It's throughout the whole book. It doesn't just pop up randomly. So I wanted to recommend that one. The next one I have is kind of a wild one that some people might not like this book, but I personally enjoyed it, and that is My Dark Romeo by LJ Shen and Parker S. Huntington. So I'm going to say that this has a bananas plot line. It is bananas, absolutely bananas. If you are looking for just a fun time, it's not very serious. There is a pretty good love story, definitely enemies to lovers, but there's just some wild things in here. This is for you. I listened to the audiobook because I love the narrators for this book. I think they did an amazing job. So I would highly recommend it. But in this one, you see our female character. She comes from this really southern traditional style family. She is engaged to someone else, and she gets put in a compromising position by Romeo. Yes, his name is Romeo. And then she's forced to break off the engagement to marry him because, she is caught in a compromising position and she is now not pure. It's a very southern, very old school family. And yeah, they're supposed to get married. So he takes her to his house. Obviously, he has a whole plan of why he kind of went after her and made her put her in this compromising position. This whole time that they are forced together in this house, literally forced proximity, he fights the attraction towards her so much to the point where he just has to be out of the house all the time. And she is just stuck going crazy in this house. So, she entertains herself, if I'll say that. All she wants is a child, and he does not want children. So that really becomes a huge part of the story. And when I tell you I had a fun time reading it, it is crazy the shit that she does. But it's funny. Their banter, because they don't like each other, is funny to me. It kept the story going. So yes, it is not one of those super emotional, angsty romances. It has a bonkers plot. And if you're looking for that, then this is a great enemies to lovers story for you. I'm not going to lie. The next one I have is Weekside by S.J. Silvis. So this is also my first S.J. Silvis book, and I absolutely loved it. I picked it up on a whim because it recently came out, and I thought, I'm back on my hockey bullshit, so let's just jump into this book. And I really enjoyed it. So this book has a lot of tropes in it. So yes, it is enemies to lovers. It is also kind of fake dating. It shows up in the middle of the book. It is also a roommate's romance basically. So what happens is at the beginning of this new college semester, our female character finds out that she is rooming with this not famous hockey player, but this popular hockey player on campus. And it's because her name is like gender neutral and they switched it around. So they think that she's a boy, but she's really a woman. And she gets put in on the floor with all the guys, not the girls. So there's nowhere else for them to go. There's no appeal. There's no other room. So they have to just work it out. So while they're forced together, they're forced to get to know each other. She's like, I don't like you. She stays up all night. He has a strict schedule, obviously, because he's a hockey player. She dances. She's just trying to get through college. She doesn't have a lot of money, you know, like she's really just trying to get by. And so he's like, halfway through the book, he's like, oh my God, I can use you, like, help me out kind of a thing. You can help me out with all these puck bunnies. Like, just pretend that you're like, you know, we're living in the same room, the dorm room, and they just leave me alone because I don't want to do it anymore. And it is really funny because he becomes like a boy obsessed with her type of a thing, even though she's trying to like keep him away. So the enemies to lovers is more like truly enemies, like, oh, I hate you. You're a playboy. You're just, you know, stuck up type of a thing. And he's like, oh, well, you're not compromising at all. You're just, you know, living in your own world. So it's kind of that. Enemies to lovers, definitely not hate to love. So these are not hate to love in any way, because yeah, those are totally different in my opinion, but this one was so good. There is a lot of hockey and I personally really enjoyed it. I like the character growth of our female character. She does go through a lot and he actually really does help her. And they do have these sweet moments where they get to like open up to each other, and I personally really love those in a romance, so I would highly recommend this one. Now, the next book I have is The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke. So I recently read this in the last 2 months, and I think, one, it's a perfect book for summer. I did put it in a summer romance recommendations video because it does take place during the summer. When I tell you this is borderline hate to love, enemies to lovers, it's not necessarily hate to love because they don't do anything. They don't act on that hate that they have for each other. It's very much enemies to lovers. And this enemies part is pretty much the whole book. So it is very prevalent. So basically, we see at the beginning of the book, it has a lot of past to present, so it does go past to present a lot, but we see at the beginning of the book, our female character, she's back in town after years of this small town, after years of not being there, because the person who kind of raised her is opening up this kind of orphanage home for kids, older kids that just need kind of like a place to stay. Then our main male character is also there. Basically, the person who is opening up this home, she is the person who raised them, basically, who was there in their like life for 2 summers back to back when they were in college. So we see our female character. In the past, she is actually dating that woman's son. So they've been dating for a while. And when her home life gets really, really bad, she goes to live with them. And, you know, she's very grateful for, you know, being taken in. He is a son of a pastor, so it's very religious. There's a lot of religious talk in here. So if that's something that's triggering to you, just know that. There's a lot of religious talk. But basically during the summer when he comes back from college, because her boyfriend is a year older than her, he brings back this friend that he met there. He also had a lot of issues with his family, but, you know, being there for the summer, they kind of like look at each other like, we kind of come from like the same background, we have a lot of shit going on, and they just like kind of stay away from each other. It's this very like, let's keep our distance thing, because I am with him, like, you know, this is my boyfriend, and he's like, that's my friend, and I'll tolerate you. So you really get to see this very interesting enemies to lovers relationship develop. And like I said, it is slow burn because it does go past to present, but the past to present really makes sense. I feel like I'm not explaining this book very well, but there's a lot of emotion. It's super angsty. It's extremely emotional. It is enemies to lovers. And I would suggest everyone read it. If you've tried Elizabeth O'Rourke before and you don't like her, I think that this book would really work for you. It's very different than some of the other things that she wrote. So I would highly recommend reading it, especially if you're going to Book Bonanza. Read it before then because she's going to be there. The next book I have is Rouge by Greer Rivers. So this is the second book in her Tattered Curtain series, and you can read it as a standalone. I have read the first book, absolutely loved it. That one takes place in New Orleans. This one, Rouge, takes place in Vegas. It is enemies to lovers because their families are rivals, and he has his own orders, I will say, to kind of take her out. It's either basically kill her or force her to do whatever you want. And he does not kill her. He takes her and gets married to her literally in one night. And she's like, what the hell? So basically he puts her up in his penthouse and is like, I need to keep you away from this other people that are trying to find you, because they can, you know, do all these they can basically take you and use you against me. I just need you to stay there. Also, I'm trying to like keep you a secret from like my family that I didn't actually marry you because I feel something for you. And it's enemies to lovers because when they're, oh my God, she like trashes his house because she is so mad that he like took her and made her get married to him all in a night. And when I tell you trash his house, I literally mean she knows he's watching from the security cameras in the house, and she just knows. She just goes through his kitchen and smashes everything. She's like, I hate you. I hate what you're doing to me. That moment I was like, oh, this bitch is crazy. Like, she is psycho over him, like hates him, right? But it, you know, when they're near each other, it's not necessarily hate to love, it's mostly enemies to lovers, and they use sex as kind of like that bargaining thing, like, oh, I know you hate me, but you have, you know, you feel something towards me. They both do it. They both do that. So if you like a spicier enemies to lovers, this one's it. I really love Greer Rivers' writing. I think it is done really, really well. This is my second favorite in the series. Obviously, the first book takes place in New Orleans. That's my favorite, but this one is also a really good follow-up. The next one I have is Hail Mary by Candy Steiner. So I feel like I haven't recommended this book, and I'm really glad that I can put this in enemies to lovers because it is once again a friends to enemies to lovers. We see in the past in high school, our female character plays video games, which I thought was very interesting because a lot of people do meet online through chatting on Discord, whether you play on PC or you play like on an Xbox or PlayStation or whatever. You chat a lot, but you never get to see the other person. So she is, you know, a girl, I should say, in high school playing all these games, and, you know, she starts to talk to this other person that she finds out is one of the popular guys at her high school, but he doesn't know who she is because she kind of flies under the radar at school. So she finally gets the courage to go up to him and like tell him who she is, even though like it's been months, right? That she's been like, oh, I don't want to tell you who I am. It's been months, right? And he's just like, I don't know who you are. Kind of plays it off. He's a popular guy and she is obviously not that popular. She doesn't look like all these other popular girls, and he just is like, what the heck? And so that turns into I hate you. So now comes college. She is grown up. She is a grown-ass woman now. She is fully confident in her body and how she looks, which, you know, he starts noticing that because she lives next door or around the same area as the hockey house that all the guys live in, right? So this is the fourth book in her series, but you can read them kind of out of order. But this one is really interesting because he still doesn't know that he went to high school with her. And so she's constantly pushing him away, and he's constantly pining after her. But she's like, you did me dirty. Like, that was wrong of you to do that. You kind of act like this nice girl, nice guy now, but like when it really mattered, when I didn't look the way that I did now, you cannot give me the time of day. Like, that's not fair. So that is pretty much, it's enemies on her side, and he's pining most of the time because he doesn't understand, and he does feel really bad when everything does come out. But I really enjoyed this one. It's not my favorite in the series, but it's up there. It's probably my second favorite in the series. So I would highly recommend it. I feel like people don't really talk about Hail Mary because it's the last book, and a lot of people already have their favorites, but I think it's an underrated book in this series that she has. So the last book I have to share with you is To Hate Adam Connor by Ella Mays. So I will say this is one of my favorite Ella Mays books that I've read. I mean, Marriage for One is up there, but I don't know, this rivals that for me. This is a single dad romance, but also he is newly divorced, and they really, the enemies is, it is for most of the book, I'm not gonna lie. They both feel a certain way. Like, he just finds her super annoying. He finds her, just everything about her annoys him. She is out there, she is bubbly, but she is like, she speaks her mind and stuff like that. But I mean, it also is the way that they met. She was looking over the wall of his house because Adam is a very famous person. He's a actor in Hollywood, and she, our female character, is living with Olive and Jason, who is from the first book in the series. He is also a famous actor, so they're living, you know, together. She's just moved in temporarily after she finds her boyfriend. She breaks up with her boyfriend, and she's like, not stalking him, but it's borderline stalking. But when she looks over the wall to see what he's doing, she finds his son basically almost drowning in the pool. No one's watching him, so she jumps over and like saves him or whatever. So he's grateful that she saved his son, but at the same time, she's like, I don't like you. Like, I don't like what you stand for. I don't like what you do, like everything of that. And he's like, well, I think you're annoying and I think you're entitled and blah, 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 blah. I really enjoyed the banter. The banter got me with this book. That's what I really, really loved about it. So if you are someone who loves enemies to lovers with A+ banter, this is it. Like, Ella Mays knows how to do that. And I loved both of the characters, and I loved how it transitioned from enemies to lovers. Also, the son plays a huge part. So there you go. He's super cute. I love Aiden so much, and I think he's like one of the stars of this book. So yeah, I always love that in single parent romances where the kid actually does play a big role. So highly suggest reading this one. But those are all my enemies to lovers romance recommendations that I have to share with you today. For the emoji for this video, drop me the heart on fire emoji, the red heart that's like on fire, because like enemies to lovers, it always is like an explosive love story. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Drop me that in the comments. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content for me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.